So you might see on forums so many people asking what's the best volume tweezer out there, and there is no best volume tweezer out there. It's a case of finding a volume tweezer that suits you, a bit like finding a pair of shoes that suit you. But what I'm going to do is take you through the different tweezers from basic to advanced, show you how they work, how their sweet spots are set, and then from that hopefully you'll be able to figure out what is going to suit you. Now the first one that we're going to look at is a tweezer like this. Now this is my round boot volume tweezer. This is what I train my beginners on because it's a very thick, sturdy tweezer. It's very forgiving and it's got a big sweet spot in it. And what sweet spot means is the grab area. How much of this tweezer tip will meet and grab your volume fan. Now you'll tend to find that the sharper the tip and the longer the head, the more the sweet spot is set towards the very, very tip. It's to do with how the tweezer works. Whereas if you've got a shorter or fatter head, so your tweezer maybe is quite blunt, your sweet spot will be much longer. And as a beginner, you won't be very good at finding your sweet spot, so you'll tend to be sort of working all through this bit, but as you get more advanced you'll know exactly where to work with your sweet spot and how to work on a more precise tweezer. Although this is a beginner tweezer, it is actually a really nice tweezer because it does have a sharper head on it, and it's going to allow you to be able to go in and separate the lashes out that you want. It's also a very firm tweezer, so you can put a good pressure on it and it will keep your lashes together. A lot of tweezers that are poor quality, your lashes will fall out of them. Now when I go to create my fan, I can also create quite a wide fan if I wanted, and look how far I can pick this fan up the tweezer. It's still grabbing up to this area here. So this is why this type of tweezer is quite a good one for a beginner. Also, because this is a thicker steel as well, if you're a little bit clumsy or you tend to do this and twist your tweezers, then your fan will actually still kind of work. If you do this bad twisting with a really precise tweezer, not only will you damage the tweezer, but you'll actually lose your lashes out of that tweezer. So let's see if we can make a really, really wide fan and if this tweezer will still grab. So you'll see even up to here, this tweezer's still got a good sweet spot, whereas more sort of advanced ones with sharper tips won't grab like this. So this is why I love to train my beginners on this tweezer. It is important that I always hand test these tweezers because not all pass. So I have to know that they do work, but with a beginner they're going to very easily be able to pick up a fan with this tweezer because, like I said, it is a very forgiving and nice tweezer. So this tweezer we've got here is what I call sort of an intermediate to advanced tweezer. This one's called the Orion. This one was actually designed by me because there isn't actually tweezers that are designed out there for volume. We just find other tweezers that do the job, but I wanted to design one that was actually designed for volume, and this one is. So this is a great intermediate tweezer because it's quite thick, it's quite robust, so it's quite good for people that are a little bit heavy-handed, but it has got the nice sharp tips. The sweet spot is a little bit bigger as well than a very advanced tweezer, so it will go up to here, but also you can see that it's got diamond dusted tips, so we've got texture in the tips to allow us to grab the lashes. Now I always like a nice sharp tip. Like I said, it allows me to get the lashes out of the bunch, and it also assists me in being able to individually tease out each lash that I want so that I can create my fan. And then when I go to grab, I've got a nice grip and I can lift the lash up like so. So this sweet spot isn't as big as the other tweezers, what we saw before. I'm having to work more towards the tip. See how I don't waste any tip? So very, very tippy tip tips. With a tweezer like this, is very pointed, more advanced, you have to work off the very, very tip. So I'm going to create a slightly wider fan here. Let's try and see if we can get the lash in there. So actually, as you can see, quite a good sweet spot on this one. This is why it's quite a good intermediate tweezer, and we can still get a nice fan in that tweezer. So the Orion is a very, very nice tweezer to work with, and if you're a bit heavy-handed and you're prone to twisting your tweezer, this is quite a nice one to work with. So the next one we're going to work with is the sister tweezer to the Orion. This is the Polaris. Now this has a slightly more sort of upright angle on it. So if you're a person that likes to work with your hand more upright than coming at this angle, quite a nice tweezer for you. Or if you're somebody that's been used to working with a boot tweezer, this kind of adopts the same angle, so it's quite a nice transition. Again, it's got a very sharp pointed tip on it, and you can see the head that we've got on it. It's got those extra heads that are built out to give you that extra precision that you need. So a very nice tweezer, and again, it's quite a good sort of intermediate to advanced because it is a thicker steel, so it's more robust. So if you are a little bit heavy-handed, again, like twisting your tweezer, this one is a bit more forgiving. So we grab our chunk, place it down, gonna grab and lift like so. So again, nice sweet spot we've got on this tweezer. Let's go for a bigger one this time. And sharp tips are always so important if you're doing a technique like this where you want to manipulate them. I'm very much about fan perfection. You can see how every extension is worked to make sure that it's got 100% symmetry. I don't have any of these fans that are just a complete mess. Everything has to be perfect. We're going to come in, good squeeze, lift up, and we get ourselves a very, very nice fan. So a really nice tweezer, and again another one like all of my range that I have to hand test, because the people that make these tweezers, they're not lash artists, they don't test them, they just do them to our requirements, but we have to hand test every single one to ensure that you're going to be happy with it when you get it. Now finally, this is my favourite tweezer. This tweezer works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but this is the Dumont tweezer. This is a tweezer that's actually designed for watchmakers, but we found that it worked really well for Russian volume. Now I'm very light-handed. My hands are very delicate. If you are a little bit heavy-handed, this tweezer is not going to work for you because you will destroy it very quickly. The steel on it is very, very soft. It's like a memory foam mattress, so it will mould lovely around the lashes. But if you're heavy-handed and tend to twist your tweezers, you'll destroy these within about 5 or 10 minutes, which is why I don't train my beginners on them. But like I said, I'm light-handed. This one is a lovely tweezer for me because it doesn't give me any hand fatigue at all, because I've got very thin wrist, very thin fingers. I can't have a steel that's too heavy. Again, it's got that beautiful sharp tip. This tweezer just feels so beautiful to work with. It's like driving a really responsive sports car is how I say, but you have to work off the very, very tip. Otherwise, this tweezer won't pick up. If you work off the back here, you won't be able to grab all of your fans. This has been the tweezer that I've actually worked with for about 6 years now, I think, and my current pair I think are 3 years old, so if you look after them, they really will last you. And that's why I'm never frightened to invest in a really good pair of tweezers, because if I want to do my job properly, I need a tool that's going to work, and if I look after it, it will last. Now when you've got a tweezer like this that's got a very, very sharp tip, so if you've got a wider fan, you can't afford to work up here because you'll move out of your sweet spot, which is about here. You need to then grab your fan lower down so that you get all of that fan in the tweezer. And if you don't hold it correctly, you sometimes will lose a lash like so. So we're going to do that one again. There we go, that is where that sweet spot is on that tweezer. Beautiful little fan. Now another little tip when you're working with this tweezer, and any tweezer really, you might have seen that I never do this, and I'm going to bring my other tweezer in for this. I never come in and do a technique where you push on the base like this to create the fan. And the reason being is if you are working with a very precise sharp tip tweezer and it's a very soft metal, the constant rubbing on the strip here will pick up sticky residue, so you won't be able to pick up your fan. You'll also damage your tweezer. If you think every time you're doing this, you're putting pressure on that tweezer, you're going to push it out of alignment. So again, within a week, your tweezer will probably be useless. Also, if I've got residue on this tweezer, over time, it's not going to meet properly, and then when I go to pick the fan up, it will probably end up like that and I won't be able to pick it up. So this is why you'll never see me do techniques where I'm scraping along the sticky strip to pick up a volume fan. So the final point to remember is that whatever tweezer you choose to work with is always going to also depend on what pickup technique that you actually use. So today you only saw me using one. There are multiples that I do that I also teach, but it is a case of just buying tweezers to find out what works for you. So whether you use something like the round volume, whether you use something like the more sort of angled Orion that we've got going on here, or the Polaris that has got the slightly more angled head on it, or the super delicate Dumont, like I said, you just got to go out, you've got to buy them, you've got to invest in them, and you've got to go and find that technique that works for you and the pickup technique that you like to work with.